So first, everything is empty. Two, the gate of insignificance, the gate of emptiness, the gate of insignificance. When you pass through these two gates, there is a third gate which is very necessary. Without going through this particular gate or trial, your awakening is not complete. And that is the gate of sorrow. It is absolutely mind-boggling to reflect on the truth that nothing jolts you out of the impermanence nature of this world. Nothing shakes you out of your illusions like sorrow. It's when sorrow comes and hits you with a brick on your head and you're trying to stop the bleeding, you realize that truly not only the world is empty, not only everything holds no meaning, it's insignificant. In fact, I am on my own here. That this world as it exists, that it's futile. It's ignorant of me to battle with the millions of things that I battle with, because they are insignificant, they have no meaning. This is all empty. But above all, this sorrow that I'm deeply experiencing right now is the feelings I'm feeling in this is what connects me with my source. And when you are like sad, when you are when you're grieving, or when you are feeling a sense of sorrowness, you must have sometimes felt how deep the prayer is in those moments, how deep your connection is with God in that point in time. Everything else around you ceases to matter. It's almost as if you discover your constant connection with the divine, with that incident, episode, or phase of your life. So if you haven't gone through great sorrow yet, there is work to be done. We'll make some arrangements for you. I'm just joking, right? If you haven't gone through that dark night of the soul, if you have not yet experienced deep sorrow, you are quite away from awakening. And when I talk about this sorrow, I'm not saying, oh, the food was crap. The bed is too hard. These power cuts drive me nuts. No. I'm talking about real sorrow, that sorrow which when it hits you, at some point, you not only question life, you actually consider ending it altogether. Because when you're going through that deep sorrow, there comes a moment when you say, I don't want to live anymore. That, I'm talking about that level of sorrow. It is essential, because that sorrow offers you deep resistance, which gives you extraordinary strength. And then that strength gives you the willpower to get up once again and to walk the path that actually mattered. This very little controversial, but nevertheless a great Buddhist scholar, teacher, Chogyam Trungpa, I think was his name. He was giving a lecture in San Francisco, and the hall was chock-a-block, totally full. His lecture was supposed to start at 9 a.m. 9 or 5, 10, 15, 20, 9:30, 9:40, 10 a.m. He didn't show up. He was known to be late Latif. People started leaving. Many left. And he showed up at 1 p.m. Look, you've got a good deal here, all right? So just appreciate that. So he showed up at 1 p.m. And only a handful of people remained in the hall. He said, if you really want to walk the path of enlightenment, then be prepared to put up with disappointments. So keep that in mind, he said. So make up your mind if you really want to be here. But if you are here and you have started, you may as well finish it then. Nothing is more detrimental to your spiritual progress than leaving everything in between and not finishing it. Not really pushing yourself. Not really doing what you ought to do. As it says in that beautiful song, you must have heard, it's one of my favorite ones, Nina Simone's O Sinner Man. And this person, it shows purgatory, hell, and so on. This person's running. He says, oh Lord, I need you, Lord. Don't you see me praying, Lord? And the Lord says, what were you doing when you ought to be praying? Oh, sinner man, you ought to be praying. So when you ought to be doing something and you choose to do not that, but something else, you are moving away from your goal. You're getting not closer, but distant. And that's something to keep in mind. Perhaps that's why, as I've shared this story, Krishna's aunt, Kunti, who was a queen, asked him, please give me more sorrow. That's ridiculous, Krishna said. You're the first person. Look at the war that happened because everybody wanted joy and power and status and fame and property and wealth and whatnot. And here you're asking for sorrow? She said, all my life I've seen sorrow. And it kept me close to you. And now, if I be blessed with all the abundance, I'm really afraid I will forget you. And I will grow distant. I don't want that, no matter what the price. So the gate of sorrow, when you pass through it, you come out shining like princess cut diamond. VS1 clarity. You come out shining like a diamond. Extraordinary. And that is something only sorrow is capable of doing. Until then, everything remains somewhat wishy-washy. Everything remains somewhat illusory. Everything remains just here, nothing here. And certainly nothing in terms of the understanding, the grasp of the soul. Everything is just understood from head until then. One time, it's a true story, I heard Akbar was sitting and his courtiers and everybody was sitting with him at this feast. And Akbar had invited some kings from a Hindu kingdom, and it occurred to him that maybe I should say my Islamic grace as well, but maybe somebody should also say some Hindu or Vedic mantras and offer food to God. So naturally he asked Birbal to do that. A big long table, everybody's sitting on both sides, and on the other end Birbal is sitting. and he starts to say his prayer. Now he's whispering, just murmuring. And Akbar interrupted him. He said, Birbal, I can't hear you. He said, Jahanpana, I wasn't talking to you. This prayer wasn't for you. This was for my God. This was for my Lord. His head was in the right place. His priorities were clear to him. He knew whom he had to talk to. The gate of sorrow, once you pass through it, brings you closer to your source like nothing else. So when you are going through that period, although I would never wish anybody to experience sorrow, but it's inevitable, I think. When you're going through sorrow, just remember, A, this is a phase, it will pass. B, it is a necessary phase. C, it will bring out the best in me. It will bring out the truth in me. How you behave in sorrow, what you think in sorrow, who you remain connected with in sorrow. What do you look up to in sorrow? It's what you are made of. These are your most hidden feelings that only come out in the face of sorrow. So much so, I would actually go on to say that everything else is designed to forget what you stand for, what you really have in you. Everything else is designed to make you forget that. Only sorrow reminds you the true nature of your life, yourself, and your world, and the world around you. This power is in the hands of sorrow and sorrow alone. But of course, this world is full of polar opposites. So you may realize, you may have gone through the gate of emptiness. You may have gone through the gate of insignificance, where you realize, well, whatever I do, actually, I don't have to get all, worked up about it. It means nothing. Ultimately, even if there was no Facebook, world would be going on just fine. Even if the greatest inventions that we have today that we think change the course of human history or mankind, if they were not there, something else would be there. Maybe life would even be better, who knows? And third is the gate of sorrow. But even after you've gone through sorrow and you've realized the empty nature of everything, and you've realized, you're so humble now that you've realized that you are insignificant, this world is insignificant, whatever we do now, no matter how grand the scale, everything is insignificant. There is the fourth gate. And if you're really close to siddhis, if you're really close to the divine, at some point of time in your life, you will go through the fourth gate. If you don't, you will have to come back to Badrika Ashram for the next discourse. You'll have to come back to this planet one more time to complete your journey. And the fourth gate is the gate of opulence, the gate of abundance. To really complete your journey, at some point in time, nature is going to give you access to so much wealth or resources that you would be able to say to yourself, you know what? If I retired right now, I don't have to lift my finger for the rest of my life. If you have not yet experienced opulence, and I don't mean being ostentatious or extravagant or flamboyant, I'm simply saying, if you have not experienced abundance in your life, then something is seriously missing. That abundance could sometimes be intellectual abundance, but mostly I'm referring to material abundance. If you have not yet experienced it, it says a lot about you. Above all, I feel it says that you have not made the best use of your time, intellect, intelligence, energy, willpower, and resources around you. If you are struggling for the basics, now I think awakening should be least of your concerns. First is to harness your potential and put it to some meaningful pursuit or use. It sounds very counterintuitive, doesn't it? It sounds very obscene, even my suggestion that if you have not experienced abundance, you're not ready for it. There is a huge difference between Kabir's sense of renunciation versus Buddha's or Mahavira's sense of renunciation. These folks gave up. They had the courage to walk away. They lived in abundance, they lived in opulence. Lord Rama walked away from a kingdom which Yudhishthira could not. It takes courage. It takes a deep, practical, applied realization of emptiness, insignificance, as well as sorrow. True detachment to be able to live through opulence without it getting to your head. Because it's such an incredible thing. If you have $1 million in your bank account and that debit card is in your pocket, it will change your gait. It will change. That confidence, that walk, that the way you will talk, everything will change. And when you are a pauper, it's very different. I cannot give prizes to anybody if they are bereft of everything that they could have done with their lives and they are very humble. Of course, you have no other choice. You will be humble. That's not humility. Let's not flatter ourselves. In fact, the real test of humility is how you speak to those or treat those who are much below you and those who are stranger to you. And those who are above you, actually. Those who are like you. Pretty much everybody. But the real test is, how do you treat those who solve no purpose of yours in your life? As for me, I don't give them my time. Just joking. You get the idea. Without that realization, without living, rolling in abundance, that you can eat what you want to eat, you can sleep when you want to sleep, and you can afford medication, you can afford warm clothes in winter. That to me is abundance, to tell you the truth. And that you can afford to take some time off. It's not like you have to run every single day, work every single day to pay your bills next month. This is not the life you signed up for, and this is not the life you have to live. You can change your life. But talking about awakening, these 4 gates, until you've seen everything, until you've seen that material completion in your life, until you've seen sorrow, until you've realized how insignificant everything is, until you've gone through the gate of emptiness, you will not experience true detachment. And in the absence of sustained, lasting, true, and genuine detachment, it is almost impossible to know, to live in an awakened state. It is impossible to know what awakening is. It is impossible to experience that awakening.